at being young.
Welcome to 20-Allthings. My name is Kevin, and this is a web project dedicated to self-development for people in their 20s. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with one of my life mentors. He is such a dear person to me, and I'm really happy that he's here on the show. Please welcome Gene Quiocho.
Hey everyone, nice to see everyone, and I love you, Kevin. Love everything that you're doing, and it's just an honor to be part of your life and journey. So thank you.
I really appreciate you. And just for those listening or watching, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Oh, well, I'm going to be 45 years old, and I have worked both in the secular field and currently working in church vocation. Spent almost some time overseas with not just missions, but overseas education. Did almost 15 years with the government, and I think currently going on maybe 12 years in church vocation solely in this world. So
That's awesome to hear. And
I have a wife too.
Okay.
Married, Queen. Shout out there.
Shout out to
and
Queen.
And we have been married 15 years, and we have two daughters, Olivia and Mia, who are 14 and 10.
Yeah, well, they have an amazing family, and particularly why I requested Gene to be on this project is because I wanted to really talk about this concept of how in your 20s do you finish what you start. Well, to me, that really resonates. With 20-Allthings, I actually started this project in 2020, and then after a few months, after recording a lot of videos, I was like, okay, done. I couldn't find enough motivation to continue it. And so after months of really wrestling of like, okay, here we are, and now I'm trying to get back to that. And so for you, Gene, let's start off with you. How in your life, how have you had instances, or have you gone through instances where you finished what you started?
Well, I think, first of all, I'll say this is an amazing topic for me because I am not the strongest finisher. It's been a challenge, an area where I can improve. But, you know, I would just say, for an example of finishing, a good example is this. So currently where we're at with, working with the church vocation, maneuvering and pivoting through this current pandemic. As you know, most of us were sheltered in place, which caused all of the churches mostly to kind of pivot into a complete online experience while we try to figure out, whether we're going to meet in person, meet outside, meet inside. And I think when it comes to finishing, it was really difficult because we just transitioned here to where we currently are. The organization we're currently at is Echo Church. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I really transitioned right in the middle of the pandemic. And so it's easy. The reason why I say this, I won't say the whole phase of it, but we had to maneuver as a campus. We're a multi-site church. We had to maneuver as a campus these kind of unknown chartered territories of where we're going to go now during a pandemic. And it was going to be easy. It would have been easy for Queen and I, maybe not. Maybe, our leaders are pretty high capacity, but it would be easy just to kind of throw the results to like, oh, we're new. Mm-hmm. This is a new experience. This is a pandemic. And with Queen and I, we entered this new assignment with a plan. And the plan factored in some very difficult challenges when it comes to helping people in their sensitivity where they're at in the pandemic, maybe come back from online outdoor experience. You were part of that. Yep. Navigating maybe indoor, navigating people's opinions on where everything is. And so it would have been easy there was moments throughout last year just to maybe call it quits and just maybe go online, or maybe just say, well, this is what we have right now and we're just going to do outdoor. And it really took some grit and resolve and commitment to finish the plan with you involved and a lot of the other team to say, no, this is the kind of direction we're going. It's going to be hard to get there. And we maneuvered from online to outdoor, to hybrid outdoor, indoor, to now indoor, to 2 services now. And so that's like one of a real recent example of finishing something you started within a year time frame.
Yeah, that's great. And, I personally have seen the growth in that. And, it's great to be meeting with you in
You
person.
put your sweat in it.
For sure. Yeah. But I wanted to talk about and explore that idea more. I know that what you said earlier with the church example, the ministry example, that's for sure for firsthand, to me, a great example. But how about for other people that may not be, or whether they're believers or not, like what are other examples maybe in your professional life where you have seen that type of growth and you finished, or you tried to finish what you started?
I think one thing that it's a new year, so all of us have some, if you navigate that world and you believe in that, you have some maybe New Year's resolutions. And over the past, a common example is you start the new year off, and always for me, I want to be healthier. Mm-hmm. And I would say this, to navigate how to finish strong, you probably have to also be aware of the traps of failing to finish. And, I'll use that example of health. We've navigated, one year, I want to lose 40 pounds. And those goals weren't very specific. It was just really general. I want to lose 40 pounds in 3 months or 4 months. Didn't really have a plan. Navigated the first, few weeks of a strong, what I thought was, okay, I eat a little decent, but I also work out hard. And, when I come to my 4 months, it should work out. Because I lacked a plan, there was failures there of that. So I would say, instead of using an example of where I finished strong, I think the greater lessons are where we have not finished strong, and then kind of, reverse engineer. What are some good aspects of finishing strong? And so I have more failures of where I didn't finish. I know it's bad, over 45 years than I do, finishing strong, and you're improving every time. So I would say, those are probably the better questions for everyone is, okay, what did you learn when you failed?
Yeah. So making sure that once we reach the point whether you ended or you decided to end things, you look back and say, okay, how can I improve? Is that what you're
absolutely
referring to?
There's a constant assessment that you have to go through as a person, especially if you're a person who loves leadership. Mm-hmm. You're constantly having to assess and analyze your performance from the actual activity and the end results, and so I think that's smart.
And so for people, whether they're into leadership or not, like I think for me, well, I'm in my 30s now, and I think when I was in my 20s, I didn't know when to stop at the right moment, because I know we talked about a lot of like you finish what you started, but is there a healthy way to determine this is a right time to stop instead of finishing what we're doing?
Well, I think a key indicator, I don't want to answer that question because it's really personal and unique to each person, but I would say if you're working against your passions and you are working against your current skill set, you're going to encounter a whole lot of frustration when you're trying to pursue a goal or something and it involves a strong finish, and especially time or duration is huge. If you're in a situation that's frustrating you, and the time that you're in it is long, you're probably not going to finish it, and that's probably a good indicator that you might want to reassess your goal or your project there.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So of a good finisher. So now I'm thinking. So at one time, when Queen and I, we've been married 15 years. And this was 2 years ago was actually the first year that I was not in school, and I'm an avid learner. That's kind of where I'm bent. One of my personality traits, and so there was one time where I was earning my MBA in international development, and then I was also earning my Master's of Divinity, and that was a time where they both clashed, and it created a lot of stress because I overcommitted myself. But I didn't have, in my mind, I didn't have a choice but to finish. And what helped me navigate that was, assessing what I could cut out of my life. And then I'll just break it down really simple. Yeah. What needs to go? What can I cut out? The good, the good stuff for the bad stuff, the best stuff. And then literally like, okay, I'm going to have to grit it out. I'm going to have to get, less sleep than I want, less fun than I want. Because finishing strong is not it's not an option. So I just got to grit it out and do it. And make sure that I'm not becoming lazy in the process of, you hear that in school, C's earned degrees. Yeah. No, that's not finishing strong. And so I had to really apply intentional grit to finishing strong when it came to earning, my education.
That's an interesting point. I think that coming into this conversation, we were focusing on how to finish what you started. But I love that phrase that you mentioned about finishing strong. Yeah. So for 20-somethings or the people in their 20s, what are practical steps that they may, that would be helpful for them to finish strong?
So I love the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a classic. It probably is not very known right now, but Stephen Covey writes the 7 principles of highly effective people. And he begins with this. He says, you need to start something with the end in mind. And if you're going to finish strong, and if you're going to finish anything, I think it's a good idea that you start it with a proper assessment of what it's going to take to end well. And so you kind of think about, okay, if you start with the end in mind, you kind of want to reverse engineer every step that will lead to that strong ending. And so I would say the first thing you got to do is really have a realistic picture or understanding of what the end looks like. Because you can't finish something, especially strong, if you don't have vision for what the end result is going to look like. Because how do you know that you've actually reached there? And one of the traps is when we get tired, we fight laziness. And when we fight laziness, then we cut corners. And then when we cut corners, we might create these false stops that were never intended to be there just because we want out. So I'd say begin with the end in mind is one great thing you can do to start to finish strong and well.
Got it. Are there other tips that you may have for people in their 20s?
Yeah, goals. So when you begin with the end in mind, you can't get there when you reverse engineer without setting some goals. And I think common in the business world is SMART goals. They're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. Something that we're using in our organization at Echo Church is we call them stretchable but achievable goals. So you got to have goals, and they have to be clear. They have to be measurable. They have to be specific. And if you're able to break those goals into bite-sized pieces, if you take the planning process, right? You have a vision that should be your end result. At the end of this is what beginning with the end in mind looks like, the vision. And then you create these goals, these goals that lead up to that. And then each goal has an objective. What do you want to try to achieve? So I'd say another thing to finish strong and end well is that you have realistic goals that are measurable, but you break them into bite-sized pieces that create celebration moments along the journey. Those are important too, especially if what you're trying to achieve is stretching you.
Okay. Yeah. That's really good to hear. Especially for me, this is now, well, hopefully you keep me accountable. I'm trying to return with this web project. So I would have continued it. I started it months ago, or in fact, I think 2 or a year ago. I can't even remember, but I hope to finish strong with this project. And with this whole conversation, I really learned a lot. I have some homework to do for myself. Oh, you go ahead.
I think another thing too is accountability. If you want to finish strong, get accountability. And then if you really want to do well, get a coach.
Yeah.
The best leaders have coaches. The best athletes have coaches.
And speaking of that though, I would love to talk to you about how to properly get coached, and that's for another time. That's another conversation. Great. But you know what? For this conversation today, I really learned a lot. I'm so thankful for you, Gene.
It's an honor.
Okay, awesome. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this video, and thank you for listening.
Yeah. Look. Yeah, I'm young, but I'm hungry. Here to learn, I won't let you take it from me. Grown talk, yeah, I'm talking 20-something. I don't know about much, but know one thing. I'm only good at being young. I'm only good at being young.